All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class, I've been creating a series of videos based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. I'm in the JavaScript portion talking about JavaScript building blocks, and we've started to go through making decisions in your code. And what I did was I broke away and went through my own two examples. I'm not going to run through those again right now, but let's jump back in. So this is the syntax for a basic if-else statement. The condition that you put in here is referred to as a Boolean condition. In other words, whatever you put in that if statement right there, all right, must be able by the computer to be able to tell whether it is true or whether it is false. If it is true, you will do the one or more lines of code that is within these two curly braces. And if it was false, you'll do the one or more lines of code that are in those between those curly braces. So as it says, the keyword if is followed by parentheses. The condition to test, all right, which must be true or false, and it can make usage of the comparison operators. Triple equals, exclamation point equal, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Again, if it's just one statement, you don't need the curly braces. I put them in all the time anyway. But if it's true, you want to do this. And if it's false, so true, false. The else is never mandatory. And if you don't have an else and the if is not true, as they show in the example up above here, you do nothing. By putting in, again, like this, either the code to run if the if is true, whatever in there will run, or to run some other code instead, that code will run. Only one can run of the two, but one must run. All right, so they give an example here. Let's take a look at the example that they've shown there. All right, so it says, let's consider a real example. Imagine a child being asked for help with a chore by their mother or father. So they've got this here, and basically shopping done is false, all right? And they're saying to their kid, if you'll go shopping with me, I'll increase your allowance, or I'll give you an allowance of $10 or whatever. And if you don't go shopping with me, I'll give you an allowance of $5. So either this line of code will execute, or this line of code will execute. One of those two must execute, but only one can execute. All right? Now, if you've got multiple things, as I showed you in the example, you can have an else if. So they're using this, and they're using this basically, it looks like, with a weather forecast. So notice it can be sunny, rainy, snowy, or overcast in this example. So it can be one of these four things. All right, and then you come in here and you say, wow, if it is one of these four things, so if it's sunny, you want to say it is nice and sunny outside, wear shorts, etc., etc. If it's rainy, you'll say rain is falling outside, take a raincoat and an umbrella, etc., etc. If it is snowing, you'll say the snow is coming down, it is freezing, best to stay in with a hot cup of soup or whatever that is. If it's overcast, you say it isn't raining, but the sky is gray and gloomy and it could start raining. If it is not any of these, so if it is not sunny, rainy, snowy, or overcast, so if you don't choose any of them, then you're not going to show any paragraph content. All right? That's it. Now they're using a select here, which is basically allowing us to create a drop-down list. So here's the example, as it says. Oh, in fact, let's not even look at their example. That's it there, and it's not worth going over. Well, let's just go over the finished live version. So select the weather. So notice if I say overcast, it isn't raining, but it could at any time. If I say sunny, there it is. If I say rainy, there it is. And if I say snowing, there it is. And the default or the non-value is make a choice. And if that's the case, you say nothing. All right? Very powerful structure. All right. Going back to those comparison operators, they're what I told you before. Don't use the double equal. Use the triple equal, which is assignment and identity. Don't use the exclamation point equal. Use the exclamation point equal equal. All right, for non-equality and identity. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Hopefully at least all that stuff that's in there. All right. Then the author says we want to make special mention of testing Boolean true, false. All right. Notice, and this is known as truthy or falsy in JavaScript. All right. In JavaScript, if something is false, it's false. That makes sense. If it's undefined, it's false. If it's null, it's false. If it's 0, it's false. If it's NaN for not a number, it's false. And if it's the empty string, whether that's double quote, or single quote, all right, that's false. Anything else returns true. So if you look at this, let cheese equal cheddar. If cheese, that's going to return true. Yay, cheese available for making cheese on toast. All right. Now, when returning to the simpler example, earlier when we looked at this thing with the kids' allowance, we said if the shopping done equal true, equal true, which is totally fine, but there's a shortcut for that. And that is to just say if shopping done, which is the same thing as equal true. It is totally legitimate to put an if statement inside of an if, and if inside of an else, etc. So you can nest these as many times as you want to. All right. So notice the code that's in here, that code, will only be hit if they chose sunny. If they didn't choose sunny, this is always skipped. If they did choose sunny, and the temperature is less than 86 degrees, then this is what will run. If they chose sunny, but the temperature is greater than 86 degrees, then this is what will run. All right. You can use the logical operators, and there are 3 of them, and, or, and not. Notice for and, it's double ampersand. With or, it's double pipe sign. And with not, it's a single exclamation point. Now, I should mention that if you have a bunch of these, because you can make an expression as complex as you want it or need it to be. If you have multiple ands, ors, nots, unless you use parentheses, which of course supersedes things, you do the nots first, then the ands, then the ors. The nots are most restrictive. The ands are next most restrictive, and the ors are least restrictive. So when you use an and like this, both of these must be true. This must be true, and this must be true. If this is false, it doesn't matter if that one's true or false. If this one's true, but that one's false, it doesn't really matter that that one was true. All right? What JavaScript does by default is it uses what's called short circuit evaluation. What that means is if this one is false right here, if the choice was not sunny, you don't even check this. Since it's an and both of these must be true, if this is false, there's no sense in checking this one. JavaScript also uses short circuit evaluation for the or. So if this had been an or, so instead of that, if it had been an or, If this one is true, then you don't check this one. All right, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. A common mistake when using the or the and is to try to do something like this. It's not going to work. You've got to put every condition. So x equals 5, x equals 7, etc. Run my code. This is valid. That is not valid. Now, just to show you this as well, I know that years ago I worked with a guy. He called me the parentheses fairy because he said, boy, you put parentheses in all over the place. But I would parenthesize this as I'm showing you right now. And the reason I would do that is I like there to be left no doubt. All right. So I would do and go in and parenthesize that like this. It'll work fine if you don't. But this leaves absolutely no doubt in my humble opinion. All right, the switch we already looked at. So it's switch followed by an expression. It used to be, not that many years ago, in JavaScript and in other languages, that whatever you put in for the switch, this expression had to be what's called ordinal, which means it had to have a unique predecessor and a unique successor, meaning that basically about all you could put in there were whole numbers and or a single letter. Now you can put a lot of stuff in there. So you switch on the expression. If the expression is equal to choice 1, you do this and you get out. If it's not equal to choice 1, but it's equal to choice 2, you do this and you get out. If it's not if the expression is not equal to choice 1 and not equal to choice 2, in this case at least you'll run the default. Now I should mention to you that in the example that I showed you before, but get rid of this, I don't need it any longer. This one, it is not mandatory that you put the word break in there after a default, and the default must come last. Let's suppose for a second that instead of small, medium, large, etc., let's suppose we were doing some kind of a, in fact, let me copy this. Let's suppose, and Rankin is a 2-year school, but let's suppose that we were a 4-year school, okay? So I'm going to put in here year, and I'm going to put in here year again. All right, and I'm going to do a switch on year, and I'm not going to put this in this order. I'm going to put in here junior. All right, then I'm going to put in, I hope I'm spelling that right, sophomore. I need that year is now for these. All right, let's put here freshman. And this will say senior. Now there's a reason I took the time to write this, and I want to explain to you what that rationale is, or the reasoning is. That is this. You might think, well, why didn't you put it in freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? That's the order that they are in, isn't it? And yeah, well, that's the order in which they go to school. But if you're doing a switch like this, you should put the one that's most likely to get hit first. Then the one next most likely to get hit second. Then the one next most likely to get hit third. Then the one next most likely to get hit fourth. And if it's none of those, then this one, because again, default must come at the end. Now, do you have to do it like that? No, but it just makes sense, because otherwise you're wasting the computer's time by making it go through checks that it wouldn't have to go through otherwise. So the keyword switch followed by a set of parentheses, then inside of curly braces, you put in all of your cases. Each case must have a break at the end, and you put it, the default, which is optional, it's like a final else and an if, else, if, else type of statement. The default is never mandatory, but it's always recommended. So they go back and they rewrite this, and they've rewritten it using a switch statement. Virtually anything that you write using a switch statement can be done with an if. Now, is the reverse true? The answer is yes, but not exactly as easy as you might think. So let me go back into here again. Oops. And I'm going to make one more example from this. All right, and I'm going to change. Every single time in here I've got year, I'm going to change it to grade. All right, so close. It didn't do it. Let's try that again. All right, that did it. Okay, so I'm going to say let grade equal, I'm just going to put a 71 here. It's just a number that popped into my mind. I don't have to do this anymore. And I can do the switch on the grade. Now, let's say that 90 through 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, etc. You get what I'm talking about. I'm only going to show a couple here, and you'll know why in just a minute. Why? Because if I want to show all the ones for an A, I've got to say case 90, case 91, case 92, case 93, case 94, case 95, case 96, you get the idea, case 97, case 98, case 99, case 100. And here we'll say grade is A. And we'd have to do the same thing going down. So the switch is a great statement if you have a very limited number of things using the switch with a case of possibilities. In this case, no pun intended, I'd have 101 possibilities in there. I'd have to go down then 80 through 89. That would be a B. 70 to 79 would be a C, etc. All right. And I could have a final alert in here, but what do I want? What do I do if the person puts in here 1 million or negative 312? Probably in that case, I'm going to just say again, grade is unknown. But you can see what a pain in the behind that can be. All right. So again, I can copy that and change all these. So 80, 81, 82, 83, whoops, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, get rid of that one. And this becomes a B. Then I could do the same thing for a C, the same thing for a D. And if the F would be the real hard one because I technically have to go from 0 to whatever, 59. But you can already see what a pain that is to do. All right. There is also in this language a ternary operator. All right. So we don't have much in here to go, but let's stop it right here because we're at 90 minutes, or 19 minutes, I should say. And we'll pick it up talking about the ternary operator in just a couple minutes.